schedule tonight. We got a lot going on, so I'm just going to get us kicked off right away if you are set to go. And get our first speaker up. Our first speaker tonight is John NIchols. We're delighted to have a progressive champion with us tonight. John has spent his career chronicling the times we live in and helping readers better understand the forces that shape American politics. He wears many hats. He's associate editor of the Cap Times, national affairs correspondent for The Nation, contributing writer for The Progressive, and in these times. His work has also appeared in the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, and dozens of other newspapers. A frequent guest on radio and television, John is widely recognized for his insightful commentary on politics and the media. John is also an author or co-author of numerous books that have helped bring clarity and perspective to our rapidly changing political landscape. Please join me in welcoming John NIchols.
Yeah, Ryan read that introduction just like my mother wrote it. Man, this is good. I like seeing a lot of people out in Mount Horeb. Or maybe you're just hiding from the heat. And I understand that. I'm very glad you didn't decide to have a parade today. And I'm just delighted to be with you. I'm not going to take a lot of your time because you have a lot of politicians desperate to beg for your votes. And I trust that you will make them plea in the most dignified ways and convince you that they are indeed the wisest and most progressive choices. But I'm glad to be here because I'm close to home. My people came to Wisconsin in the 1820s. They came out of the tin mines of Cornwall because Cornwall had ceased to function economically, and they came here as immigrants who were not wanted and who were sent to do the worst jobs possible. They were sent out to Mineral Point, Wisconsin, to dig into the side of hills on their own and to chip away at lead, literally lying on their backs in a little cave, chipping away at lead, breathing it in, which explains the mental acuity of my family. But this is who they were. They were immigrants who came to this country with nothing and tried to make a life here. And anybody who tells you that immigrants don't make this country better is a fool. My Wisconsin ancestors, they were not brilliant, but smart enough to get out of lead mining quick and to go into the natural and appropriate Wisconsin work, which is bartending. And my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Abner NIchols, started a bar. He started the Walker House out in Mineral Point, but then he started a bar up in Madison called the Worser. And Sheriff, you'll appreciate this, and other sheriff candidates as well, you'll appreciate this. The Worser was, their selling point was, it was the bar you would go to if you weren't accepted anyplace else. It was the Worser bar of them all. And it's right across from the state capitol. And it kind of tells you everything about Wisconsin. My great-great-great-great-great-grandfather ran the bar and eventually became the territorial state treasurer. So they put the bartender in charge of the money. Only for one term. Then he helped to write the Constitution and served representing this area right here in the first Wisconsin legislature. And so I've got a slight investment in this state. I believe in this state. In fact, I'll tell you bluntly, and if you're born and raised here, you'll know this to be true. This is the greatest state in the Union. There is no better state than Wisconsin. There never has been, and there never will be. Now, the sad part is that our greatness is such that when we screw up in great ways. And we've done that a few times over our history. There is no question. I don't think I need to mention Joe McCarthy or Scott Walker. I often confuse the two. But I will tell you this. Our screw-up was a big one. When Scott Walker became governor of Wisconsin, he laid the groundwork for the sort of dishonest, disreputable, cruel, self-dealing, law non-abiding, people disregarding politics that Donald Trump took to the White House. It didn't start with Trump. It started here in Wisconsin with Scott Walker. He showed what a governor who didn't care about his state could do to rip everything up, to tear it apart, to attack our unions, to attack our working class, to attack our farmers, to attack our communities, and ultimately to attack our right to vote itself by undermining all sorts of our processes. That's what Scott Walker did. And that's why a whole bunch of people came up and marched with me around that Capitol in 2011 about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 times. I don't know, I think maybe we thought it was a ritual. If we marched around enough, something would disappear. Didn't quite work out. So we are now at the point where Scott Walker's damage to our state can be fully and well undone. This is the moment we're in. I came to talk to you tonight, not to tell you about the past, although boy, I love talking about the past. But I came to talk to you tonight about the future. Because the fact of the matter is, Sonny Pope Roberts, the fact of the matter is that we are at the point where what Walker did can be undone. Now, Tony Evers, to me, Tony Evers is like a classic, he's like a perfect Wisconsinite, right? The guy actually made cheese as a child. Rode his bike into town, which we all did. And if you come from rural Wisconsin, and ultimately, went into serving people as a public educator, doing all these great things, got himself elected, served 2 terms, and I can't even imagine how great a governor Tony Evers would have been if he had had a legislature on his side. But we put this remarkable man in a position where he had to hold back all the forces of darkness, right? He had to take on every challenge again and again and again, standing up for a woman's right to choose when that legislature would have taken it away. Can you imagine if Tony Evers hadn't been the governor of Wisconsin when that Supreme Court Dodd ruling came down? Standing up for trans kids when other people wouldn't take care of them or respect them and say, you have a place in this state. Standing up for immigrants when ICE and other forces are coming after him. Standing up for working class people at every chance he could. That's what Tony Evers did. He did yeoman's work. This is a little thin guy, and yet he stood up against all of that and stopped horrible things from happening in Wisconsin. But those corrupt Walkerites, Scott Walker, Robin Voss, soon we'll forget their names. But those folks, they rigged the system so badly with their gerrymandering, with their opening up the doors to money in politics, with all of the things they did, that as good as Evers was, as good as Josh Kaul has been as the Attorney General of Wisconsin, as good as so many other legislators have been fighting to do their best, we weren't able to undo the damage. Now we can. 2018 was the year when we began a process that leads us to 2026. 2026, we will have a new governor of the state of Wisconsin. That governor cannot be elected on his or her own. The next governor of Wisconsin must be elected with a progressive state assembly and a progressive state senate on a progressive agenda that seeks to transform this state. And if any of these gubernatorial candidates comes to you and says, oh, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, well, you go look for another candidate. Because there is nothing more joyous than advancing a progressive agenda with a progressive legislature in place. They don't have to wait weeks or months or years. They can overturn Act 10 in the first week in that legislature. They can overturn right to work and give working class people back the power that they need. They can put our policies on the side of working farmers in small towns, not on the side of data centers and AI gigabyte billionaires. They can do that immediately. And anybody that tells you, oh no, it's going to take time. I would love to have brought my dear friends Midge Miller and some of the other, yes, some people are going, oh yeah, I remember Midge Miller. You got to be pretty old. But if I brought along Midge Miller and some of her fellow legislators and her buddies like Vel Phillips from back in the 70s, what they would tell you was when they were in the legislature with Pat Lucey as governor, they would read an article in the paper in the morning, see that there was a problem, write up a bill, send it over to the Legislative Reference Bureau and the Audit Bureau and everybody else, get it back and by the next day have a hearing. They'd be on the floor of the legislature before the end of the week. They solved problems quickly because they knew that when they had the power, people wanted them to use it. And that's what you ought to be looking for. This is a remarkably exciting moment. And I know, look, I read the papers. It's been kind of a chaotic gubernatorial race of late, right? A lot of things happening, and everybody's like, oh, I'm really scared. Something bad's going to happen, or something bad did happen, or what? Please, spare me. You're running against Tom Tiffany. It's not that hard. You literally have a candidate who has spent his entire career as a career politician running in the last 22 years, 11 campaigns. This guy can't see an election that he doesn't want to run in. And the fact of the matter is, whenever he gets in office, he does exactly what Donald Trump, the billionaires, and the corporations tell him to do. That is who he is. That is who he would be as governor. And if you can't beat that in the state of Wisconsin, then you ought to give up your card for playing politics. So brothers and sisters, this is a year of the possible. And I want to take you back before I conclude, because you got all these great candidates here, and I never want to get between a politician and a microphone. But you have all these great candidates here, and I want you to hear from them. I want you to really, I do want you to ask them questions and think about them and hear from them what you need to hear. It is not about them. It has never been about them. It is about you. You send them to do what you need done. And if there's any politician who says, boy, I don't know if we can pull that off, then you move right on to the next one. Because the fact of the matter is, you want somebody there who tells you and believes that what you believe, what you value, is possible. Because I'm going to guess, I don't know, some of you may have snuck in from out in Blue Mounds, but I'm thinking that's more to the left. But I'm just telling you, the fact of the matter is, people here come from the place that saved Wisconsin. It saved Wisconsin 126 years ago. Out in Vermont Township, not far from here. And I mean, do we all respect Vermont Township? Absolutely. Out in Vermont Township, not far from here, in 1855, kid was born into a real working class family, a farm family. And his dad died when he was 10 years old. And his mom, his working mom, did not have a lot of resources to take care of him. There wasn't that big an extended family. And so his mom would send him down to the bench in front of the country store, where he would sit with the veterans of the Civil War, the people who had come back, who had been too badly injured in the Civil War to actually have, to do a lot of the heavy lifting, the harder work around town. And they would sit on the bench down there. They'd tell stories about the Civil War, and they'd talk about why they went into battle, what they went to fight for. And anybody who ever tells you that the Civil War was a war between the states, right? All these other, no, it was a war against human bondage. It was a war against the original sin of the American experiment that allowed some people to be enslaved by others. And the people of this place understood that sin, and they went to fight against it. They gave their lives, they gave their limbs, they gave their futures, because it was a moral responsibility that they took up to save not just this country, but their own souls. And those veterans that Robert M. La Follette sat with on that bench in front of that country store told him that his responsibility as a rising young man was to never compromise in the face of evil and in the face of cruelty and in the face of division and in the face of that which would tear us apart. He learned from them. And when he was 18 years old, he hitched up a buckboard wagon and rode up to Madison, to the law school, where he heard Edward Ryan, the incoming Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, who said in 1873, and I'm not quoting Bernie Sanders here, who said in 1873, there is rising up a power in this country, a power that we don't fully understand yet, but that will place money ahead of people, that will congeal all of its wealth and use that wealth not just in the business sector, but in the political sector. They will seek to buy offices. They will seek to control our politics with their immense amounts of money. And we will have to ask, and Ryan said, in our lifetime, or perhaps in yours, looking at that young man, Robert M. La Follette, we will have to ask, which shall rule, wealth or man? Who shall fill our positions of public power? Humane and decent public servants, or the feudal serfs of corporate capital? That wasn't Bernie Sanders. That was Edward Ryan in 1873. Robert M. La Follette took that mission on, and he risked everything to make that central to our politics. 126 years ago, after 3 losing campaigns for governor of Wisconsin, Robert M. La Follette came out to this community, to these places right out here, to Mount Horeb, to Mineral Point, to Dodgeville, and he began the 1900 campaign for governor of Wisconsin, and he said, I will no longer compromise. I will no longer sell out. I will no longer seek less. I will seek a full progressive agenda that reverses the order of this state so that the railroad companies and the rich people don't run things anymore, but the farmers and the workers are in charge of this state. From this place, Robert M. La Follette won the governorship of Wisconsin not once, not twice, but 3 times. He began a transformation of this state, the most successful legislative efforts in the history, not just of Wisconsin, but the United States itself. Justice Brandeis of the Supreme Court said, Wisconsin was America's laboratory of democracy. Wisconsin was America's North Star. Robert M. La Follette fought for economic and social and racial justice before others did. He fought to save this planet and conserve its resources before others did. And he fought for peace. And brothers and sisters, we need that kind of leadership again. We need somebody that comes out of this place. I know they may not live here. They may not be from Vermont Township. But somebody who is in touch with the deep progressive values of this state, who is ready to come in and say, on the 126th anniversary of Robert M. La Follette's victory, we are going to begin a new progressive order in this state of Wisconsin. We're going to lift up the legacy of La Follette. We're going to lift up the legacy of Gaylord Nelson. We're going to lift up the legacy of Bell Phillips. We're going to lift up the legacy of Russ Feingold. We are going to transform this state. There's a wave that's going to come out of this valleys. These places out in southwestern Wisconsin, it's going to sweep across this state. You do not need to be afraid. You need to be confident. You need to demand a future that is worthy of our past. That future, which is worthy of our past, will be a progressive future. Fight on, brothers and sisters. Fight on. Solidarity. Got to take a picture and show it to everybody in New York, just so they know where all the real progressives are. So.